Good evening, everyone, and welcome and welcome to the March 2nd Wethersfield Town Council meeting. I'm going to ask our Girl Scouts to come in the front here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Girl Scouts, you're going to start us. As soon as you start, we'll all chime in. You ready? I pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You did great.
That was impressive.
I've been sitting up here a long time, and that may be the best Pledge of Allegiance we've ever done. So great job, girls. Sue, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Bailey,
Here.
Counselor Carbone,
Here?
Counselor Durick,
Here.
Counselor Forrest,
Here.
Counselor Pentelow,
Here.
Counselor Wands,
Here.
Counselor Weiner,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rotes,
Here.
Mayor Lesser. Thank
Here.
you.
So we have a couple proclamations to do tonight. The first one being Bosnian American Day, and I'm going to read that, and then we have one for the Girl Scouts, and we'll talk about that in a second. So, whereas the Bosnian American community has contributed to the rich culture and the American way of life, and where Wethersfield is proud to have recently signed a sister city agreement with Stari Grad Sarajevo in Bosnia-Herzegovina, hope I pronounced that right, and whereas the residents of Wethersfield experience the Bosnian American community's impact through art, cuisine, business, healthcare, education, and cultural events, and whereas thousands of genocide survivors who are Bosnian Americans are thankful to be in a country that has offered them a safe refuge since the late 1990s and early 2000s, and their opportunity to succeed and contribute to the United States through civic engagement. And whereas on March 1st, 1992, the citizens of Bosnia-Herzegovina voted for their independence from the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, thus restoring the sovereignty of Bosnia-Herzegovina, sorry about the pronunciation, and affirming its multi-ethnic fundamental principles. And now, whereas March 1st is recognized as the Day of Independence for Bosnia, I, Ken Lesser, Mayor of Wethersfield, do hereby proclaim March 1st as Bosnian American Day in Wethersfield and commend the Bosnian American community for ensuring a continued strong relationships between Bosnia and the United States. And I'll just comment, recently we had the mayor from Stari Grad Sarajevo here, and we have about 1,000 Bosnian residents who have contributed so much to our community, and we are proud to do this proclamation. So moving on, we have a proclamation for the Girl Scouts, and I'm going to ask you to come in front while I read this. Come on, Girl Scouts. And in a second, we're going to take a photo, but I want to talk about, I'm going to ask my fellow counselors a question. We'll see who gets the closest in a second. But let me read the proclamation first. We're so happy to have you all here tonight, Girl Scouts. Whereas on March 12, 2026 marks the 114th anniversary of Girl Scouts of the United States of America, whose mission it is to build girls of courage, confidence, and character to make the world a better place. And whereas Girl Scouts offer girls 21st century programming in science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM subjects, the outdoors, entrepreneurship, help girls develop invaluable life skills through the Girl Scout leadership experience, and whereas since its beginning, Girl Scouts have emphasized public service, civic engagement, and fostered a sense of community. And whereas Girl Scouts of Wethersfield work to ensure girls in our community to know that they can do anything they put their minds to, and encourage them to feel empowered and embrace their unique strengths. In Connecticut, Girl Scouts number over 15,000. So today, I, Ken Lesser, Mayor of Town of Wethersfield, do hereby applaud the commitment of the Girl Scouts movement has made to support leadership development among America's girls, and proudly proclaim the 12th day of March to be Girl Scout Day here in Wethersfield. And so, girls, we are so excited to have you tonight in the council chambers. And I'm going to ask my fellow counselors, let's see who can get this question right or close. How many boxes in the United States of Girl Scouts do you think are sold? Girl Scout cookies, sorry, Girl Scout cookies. Girl Scout cookies, make sure everybody heard that. Girl Scout cookies.
Let's say that a few more times.
Girl Scout cookies.
There you go.
Are sold in the United States every year. You're going to be mind-boggled when I tell you the answer. And anybody out there wants to Google it, you can check me. What do you think? Anybody, a couple guesses while we're doing this?
Couple billion.
11 million.
Couple billion?
Billion?
No.
No.
The boxes.
The boxes, you know, the
20 million.
the Thin
I would say
Mints,
20
the
million.
Thin Mints, the Tag-alongs. Anybody?
million.
Ten?
A quarter of a billion, 250 million.
250 million?
249.
You guys are all so close.
51.
All right, so since you're getting close, I'm going to give you the answer. And feel free if anybody wants to fact check me. It's 200 million. And ready for this number? The revenue collected is around 800 million. And you folks will be, all of you, interested to know, this is done in about a 2-month period. Those are annual numbers, but the Girl Scout cookies are sold over a basic. So you guys are doing such great work in all the Girl Scouts in the United States. And I'm going to ask, yeah, we can clap. And I'm just going to ask one or two of the Girl Scouts who are not shy to tell us what their favorite Girl Scout cookie is. Oh, we'll take a few minutes, okay.
I like the new one, it's Rocky Road.
Rocky Road? Venture? Thin Mints? Venture? Yeah?
Probably the Memo.
Okay. Thin Mints? Okay. Yeah. And real quickly, counselors, then we'll take a picture. If you have a favorite Girl Scout cookie, Counselor Pentelo?
Peanut butter.
Boa.
What's that, Counselor Carbone? I can't hear you. Small.
Smaller.
Counselor Baylor?
Yeah, I mean, they still make the Samoas?
Yeah?
Yeah, then I would take those.
Thin Mints.
It's the tagalongs, which are the peanut butter ones for me. Town manager? Small.
Say no to cookies.
No cookies for a kid, no cookies. John?
Oh, it's Samoas, and put them in the freezer.
In the freezer?
Oh, way, well done.
Yes.
Thin
Well done,
mints.
John.
Thin mints all the way.
Sue?
I'm like, we're so old. Smell us.
Thin Mints as well.
Well, we're so happy to have you here. Parents, we'll have to figure this out. We'd like to take a photo with all of them, and this will kind of wrap up this section with our counselors and our town manager and our town clerk. But if any of the parents want to take a photo, I think you can probably get us, because we're a little taller, just they don't have to move.
I'll sneak back here.
So you tell us if you can get everybody.
I was just kind of like
in order.
Scooch on over.
Yeah, I was scooching over.
There's gotta be one off for me.
You guys,
All right, we're ready.
I know.
thank you.
15 minutes.
Say Samoa. Tag along.
Thank you so much, girls. Can we have one more round of applause for our Girl Scouts?
I want this.
And girls, you're welcome to stay, but I could understand if you want to go home. I think I would if I was. I think I would if.
Twice.
Yeah, some other folks want to leave too. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. All right.
They got the stash of cookies in the car.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
200 million. All right. Let's keep going, everybody. So our next item on the agenda is a presentation from the Wethersfield Youth Voices Count Survey results, and our presenter is Bonnie Smith. And I know we have Carissa and Erica also here. I don't know who's going first, and I think we're going to have, yeah. So thank you for being here. I know you do this survey every year and present it to the school board and to the town council, and we're so thankful that you're all here tonight. So I think, and the counselors that have been here before, or those of you on the board, will remember this presentation about. So, Chris, if you're first. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just as you all speak, just your name and your role, but most of us know, but go ahead, Chris, you're on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carissa Peckrell. I work as the prevention coordinator for the town of Wethersfield, part of Wethersfield Social Youth and Senior Services. I want to give a quick shout out to Shelley Carbone for being our Youth Advisory Board town liaison, so thank you for that. And we are here tonight to present the results of the 2025 Youth Voices Count survey. This survey is given every 2 years in Wethersfield to students grades 7 through 12. So this gives us an idea of the perception related to prevention topics of high school students at Wethersfield High School and Silas Deane Middle School. We've been working with Bonnie Smith and are able to give this survey through some prevention funding, and so we're excited to have her here to present the results of the survey and to see how we can move it forward throughout the town in programming and elsewhere.
Thank you, Carissa. Welcome, Bonnie.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Bonnie Smith. I'm here with Luke Smith, our lead analyst. So I'll be presenting the data, but as questions arise later that we need to go into other documents, he'll assist. I do want to start with, you are in the right place. This is the town council, not the Board of Ed meeting, which you see on this initial slide, and it is March. So I apologize for my slide entry not being up to date. The rest are quite current. So Carissa introduced the survey so nicely. We've had the pleasure of working with the town for some time, and we'll be able to present some trend data going back to 2019 today. I always like to acknowledge that the schools are great partners in collecting these data and making sure we have a great representative sample, but any outcomes of the survey are not considered a school issue. They're a town issue. The school's just a partner, again, to make sure we have these data. So the students were provided a great video for instructions this year that Carissa put together to let them know what to expect and that they could end the survey at any time, and if they needed resources because something uncomfortable arose through their participation, those were provided in the video and within the survey. We had a wonderful response rate of overall about 87%, which is up from 2023, where we had an 83% response rate. This is a new question this year related to cell phones and social media. So the most common ages that youth in Wethersfield get access to their own cell phone are age 11 and 12. You can also see that 10 is quite common as well. And then it seems like as though as soon as the kids get the cell phone, very soon after they're getting their first social media accounts. And that's seen where the most common age is 12 and 13 for those. But you can see also in the gray that there are younger ages included for having access to their own social media accounts. And then looking at social media assets and consequences, if you've been here for years, you've seen similar data in the past. I highlighted a few in yellow because there's too many here to walk through each, but I'm going to start actually from the bottom. So 58% of students overall feel more connected with others because of their social media use. We have about 53% reporting that they feel better about themselves, and about 23% reporting they feel worse about themselves as a result of social media. This is a select all that apply question, so you could say you feel better and worse about yourself within the same response. And then I want to highlight the top where we have more high school students than middle school students reporting they have a hard time stopping their use of social media. But overall, that's about 32% of students. Looking at emotional health, this is about stress, worry, or anxiety in the past year. 21% of students in grades 7 through 12 or youth in grades 7 through 12 report that they almost always or always feel anxious, nervous, or worried. And this is where I'm introducing a couple things to you. At the bottom, you'll see the district reference group. So for those of you unfamiliar, the DRG or district reference group is a State Department of Education designation that was applied many years ago to help the state understand what similar districts are. That is no longer in use by the State Department of Education, but we know that the folks we communicate our data to like to use it in order to compare to other groups. So this DRG D, which you'll see throughout the survey, is where Wethersfield is designated or connected in comparison. And Together, that 15.7 and 7.6, to skip ahead, is 23.3%. So Wethersfield's almost always or always feeling anxious is a bit lower than that comparison group from our data set. And we do know from our recent 2025 adult community survey, that parents report mental health as their #1 concern for middle school and high school youth. Looking at other emotional health indicators, having thoughts of self-harm, you'll see here that the rate responding yes to this regarding the past year is higher at the middle school level than the high school level, with 16.4% of middle school students saying yes in the past year they have had thoughts of self-harm, and 12.4% at the high school level. The DRG, I'm not going to walk through each of these because we'd be here all night, but you can see that it's represented here, and Wethersfield overall falls a bit below. And then acting on that self-harm. Overall, 7.5% of students report having acted on that self-harm, and that is a higher rate at the middle school level. When we look at this across district reference group or our data set of Connecticut folks, this is what we would expect today. Middle school students tend to be struggling more so around mental health than high school students. Looking at physical abuse by an intimate partner, overall 2.1% of youth report having experienced this in the past year. Feeling sad or hopeless 2 or more weeks in a row, so much so that it stops you from your usual activities, that is 15.4% across all grade levels. And then feeling lonely often, very similar in these grade levels here, grades 7 through 12, with 26% overall. That's a new indicator this year, the loneliness. Next one, just bear with me here because I want to make sure you're following. So we asked the students first, have you seriously considered suicide in the past 12 months? And we had 8.6% of youth report yes, that is the case. That represents 117 Wethersfield youth grades 7 through 12. Those 117 students who said yes were then asked additional questions. Did you make a plan was the first, and 49 students said that they had. Did you attempt suicide? 10 students said that they had. Serious, because these are individuals, and of course we can't tell you who they are. We can look at risk factors though, and Luke has a very in-depth sheet to help us look at youth who may need more supports than others. But overall, looking at the 8.5% of the DRG compared with Wethersfield 8.6, it's exactly what we would expect, unfortunately, but it is the case. We asked those same students, 117, some more questions as well. Did you talk to a friend about it? More middle school students than high school students had. Did you talk to a parent? Pretty consistent across the grade levels, with about 20% of those 117 youth saying they had talked to a parent. Did you know where to get help? So the middle school students knew where to get help more frequently than the high school students, but overall it's about 50% of those 117 youth knew where to get help. And did you get help? It was pretty close between middle school and high school students, with 24% about getting that help, and then feeling like there was no support. Again, middle school students a little higher here, saying yes to that. Here's some trend data. This is grades 7 through 12 from 2019 to 2025 related to mental health. The anxiety indicator is the one that is looking most favorable most recently. That anxiety almost always or always. So that's looking good. Sad or hopeless and suicide, level pretty much. And especially looking at thoughts of suicide since we started looking at that data. Looking at substance use, when preparing this presentation, Carissa made the great point, like let's make sure we talk about age and years of first use, because we are noticing that there's a decline in first use amongst those youth who are using in age. The point here being, when we initiate earlier intervention, more prevention activities, we want to see that age go up. we want use rates down, age of first use, high. So the substances that are showing the most decline, which we don't want to see in age of first use, relate to vaping nicotine, marijuana use, and prescription drugs. Oh, I'm sorry, and nicotine in an oral pouch. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, you may have heard of Zyn or On as two examples of what that is. And then looking at lifetime use of substances. The number one substance used in youth's lifetime remains alcohol at about 9.7%. And then we have about 5% of youth who have binge drank in their lifetime, meaning having 4 or more alcoholic beverage on one occasion or in one sitting. We have about 7% of youth reporting having vaped nicotine products in their lifetime. You can see the DRG comparisons are here as well. Gambling, which is gaining more and more attention, we have about 7.6% of youth overall report gambling in their lifetime. And we know from that adult community survey that parents are most concerned with vaping, followed by marijuana use, and then underage drinking. So around the same situations, just maybe a different order of what we see in actual use rates. I'm showing you this lifetime use by grade level just so you get a sense of where that increases, where you see the differences. And this is what we would expect. Use rates often go up as grade levels or age goes up. You see more of a jump between that 11th and 12th grade, and certainly between 8th and 9th grade. So again, thinking about prevention, these data can help pinpoint where that primary prevention can happen and maybe where that earlier intervention or harm reduction or risk reduction can occur. We are seeing improvements in our past month use rates, past 30-day use. This is grades 9 through 12, where we see all substances have declined since 2021, with the exception of prescription drugs, which has gone up almost nothing and is under 1%. We are seeing that vaping nicotine is about the same as well. Perception of risk or harm, this is one we want to see go up. We want youth to believe or perceive that using these substances could cause them risk or harm, physical and in other ways, is a paraphrase of the question, with the most room for improvement around marijuana use at 7.4%, perceiving that it's moderately or greatly risky compared to the other substances we measure that for. And in our current environment, that's not surprising. We asked the parents in the adult community surveys a question about their perception of harm related to youth use of similar substances and behaviors. And the take-home message here in the dark blue is parents and guardians, and in that more purple color is the youth. So generally speaking, parents perceive more risk of youth using these substances or involving themselves in gambling or gaming than youth, not surprising. However, this gives us great data to indicate how working with parents to help them talk to their children more about their beliefs around these behaviors will influence youth. We know from prevention science that that's the case. So just great data to have to inform the use of that type of strategy. This is perception of access amongst youth who have used substances, so not all youth, in grades 9 through 12. And in this case, this is percent very hard or hard to access these substances. And what we want to see is that going up. And everything is improving here with the exception of prescription drugs, which has gone down just a bit. Youth report the top substance sources for themselves as home with parents' permission for alcohol, and then generally amongst the 3 substances shown here, including marijuana and vaping with nicotine, as from friends and peers, and home without parents' permission. You'll see with vaping nicotine, the difference is also stores are incorporated into that top source. And since the town council was involved with Carissa from Youth Services on adopting an interest in becoming a recovery-friendly community, we wanted to share these data here about what the youth perceive in terms of family problems related to substance use. And this question isn't in the survey to be sort of, embarking upon things within children's lives. It's to get a comparison of what youth believe is happening in their own homes and look at prevention efforts as a means to intervene, if you will. I just want to make sure you have good wording of what that question is as well. So the question is, has anyone in your family, such as a parent, guardian, brother, sister, not including you, ever used one of these substances or gambling, etc., so much so that it created a problem at home, at work, or with friends, including physical fights, verbal fights, or financial problems? I won't go through each item, but where there's Connecticut available adult data across the bottom, that was included for comparison. And overall, we know that 18% of adults in Connecticut have experienced substance use disorder in the past year of some kind. So youth are generally pretty on track with some of these expectations about family substance use. And then we always ask about other substances we know are not commonly used. We don't go into as much detail. What stood out to me here, not as of concern, but just being aware, inhalants for middle school students at 2%. Inhalants, like many other substances, but one that we often overlook, can be fatal upon first use. So we always like to be, aware of inhalants. This slide really should be titled, Why You Should Care About Youth Substance Use. And what we do is take every indicator in the survey and we put the kids into a bucket of youth who've ever used a substance and youth who've never used a substance. And Luke, our lead analyst, performs analysis to see if there's a difference statistically between kids for each question in the survey. Here I've just highlighted a few of the mental health indicators that are different for youth. We know that this is not causation. Substance use doesn't necessarily cause mental health problems, and mental health problems doesn't necessarily cause substance use problems, but there is a correlation. We all know about co-occurring substance use and mental health disorders. They go hand in hand. So that is here, and there's a snip of our Excel spreadsheet that's available, and Luke has in front of him that he can filter to look at any of these questions. We also can look at these data by race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual identity, and biological sex, which allows for really compelling needs statements when writing a grant application, because you're able to identify what groups, again, need that support the most. This year, Carissa asked me to look at positive childhood experiences. So she helped me formulate some questions around that. And here's some of the outcomes. So we have 71% of youth overall enjoying Wethersfield traditions. Things like holidays on Maine were listed in this question within the survey. Middle school students, you can see, report a little bit higher joy of the traditions. And then on the right, 2 or more adults who are not your parent or guardian showing interest in your life. And we have about 79% of middle school students saying yes, about 74% of high school students. And then, do you feel included by your classmates and teachers? Overall, 68% said yes. And do you feel supported by friends? Almost 80% said yes. We asked some questions about under a category called Connected and Thriving Factors. And rather than show you the slides, I took the deeper dive data and gave you the key points. And the take-home message here is kids who have one adult in their life that they can share their thoughts or feelings with, compared to those who don't, are definitely faring better in terms of the data. They believe their life's going in a positive directions. They feel confident that their education and career prospects after high school are strong. And they have the supports they need from school and outside of school from adults. Youth who report feeling safe at school and safe in their community also have those same protective factors in place. And lastly, about 47% of youth would like to see the data, which makes us happy. We feel strongly youth voices count. When we ask youth to provide their data, we'd like them to see it, and I know Carissa has, some great plans in place for that. And that is all from me.
So Bonnie, thank you very much for presenting. Luke, thank you for all your work. Carissa and Erica, thank you as well. At this time, I'm going to open it up to counselors to ask questions of the survey, and Bonnie and Carissa will be here to answer. So I'm opening up. Counselors, any questions? Counselor Forrest, I saw your hand first.
Thanks.
Counselor Forrest, if you could bring your mic down.
Yeah, the microphone roll. Better for you? There we go. I noticed that you talk about the DERG and you put on the bottom for the towns that are similarly situated. If you were to look at all the DERGs, I don't know how many there are, 10, 12, something like that, and you were to look at them all, do the statistics, do they change a lot throughout the DERGs? If I were to look at DERG 1 versus DERG 5 versus DERG 12, it'd be like, whoa, that's quite the difference. Or does it matter with these survey along the DERGs? Are we seeing much difference?
There are some differences if you get further, I'm going to say down or along the letters. So A and B, if we look at the 5 Connecticut's model that comes out of Data Haven, A and B would be considered more that literally it's called wealthy in that model.
Yeah, I get it.
Look, we actually don't have data on that. We have 75,000 youth in Connecticut in our data set, but we do not have any surveys from A and B, district reference group. It's a very different culture. When we look at C,
Is there a reason for that? Do they not take the surveys? In those
they don't
schools?
take our survey, they may be taking other surveys. It just doesn't seem to be a priority in those communities to look at the data.
Okay.
They might be using other surveys, there are other survey providers, but not that I'm aware of at least. But then moving down, sort of the middle of the pack, C, further on to sort of a midpoint, I would say are very similar. And then when we get into some communities that may be struggling with other social determinants of health,
Yeah.
I would say that's, Luke, would you say like I? We'll see some differences.
So basically 2 tranches and we don't know the top.
Yes, that's knowing that individual indicators within the survey might look a little bit different, but generally speaking, yes.
Understood. Thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you, Counselor Forrest. Counselor Carbone.
Good evening, ladies. Thank you for the information. Carissa and Erica, your commitment to our town, our health, our well-being, and prevention, it's so admirable, and I'm always so impressed by you ladies, so thank you. But I do have a couple questions, so I'm sorry. So you had mentioned in the survey, it's really scary, I think, for all of us to hear those words spoken out loud about abuse and suicidal thoughts and somebody who's attempting suicide. And I know you had mentioned that he has some kind of way to, is there a way to identify these children and intervene and maybe, I know it's all anonymous, but
Yeah.
what can we do as people that we're hearing that? How do we help them?
I'll start from the data side, and Carissa, you want to take the programmatic side? So you're absolutely correct. We cannot identify individuals, and we wouldn't want to. And I think I've said this to this group before. Our own children take the survey, and we are not able to identify their responses by design, of course. However, we can look at the data in terms of risk groups. Are females or males struggling more with an issue? Are folks using substances struggling with more issues than others, for example, and on and on. You can slice and dice it. So that's where we look at intervention with Carissa. And you...
Yeah, so I do work with all of the schools in district at this point in time. Typically, they will call me in for prevention-related initiatives, and oftentimes when I work with certain students, I will give what's called a risk assessment. If I know that students potentially have certain risk factors, I'll give a soft risk assessment most times that I check in with that student. However, there's also community interventions, so I am trained in what's called QPR, or Question, Persuade, Refer. That is a suicide prevention training. I've given that probably 4 or 5 times, I would say, within the last year of this position community-wide. And then the We Hope Youth Coalition, which is a group of over 40 students at the high school who work to further prevention through peer-to-peer messaging, also received QPR training as well, with the hope that they can intervene, knowing that friends are a really big protective factor, especially for those students. students.
That's great. Thank you for that. Also, you had mentioned there was, you want to see the age of the first use go up. So have you noticed, I'm just curious, a correlation between the use of social media coming at a younger age and the first use becoming younger as well?
So I can't share in terms of data, that would more be on Bonnie's side, but I think what we're seeing is that social media opens up a really wide world of information for students and youth. Most of the apps that the youth are using are either unregulated or have some sort of secrecy to them. So apps like TikTok have tons of information, but if youth wanted to learn specifics on substance use or how to use, that is a great app to do so on, unfortunately, because it's so unregulated. So they could search that, right? The other thing that we know about the apps that they are using are that secrecy aspect. So apps like Snapchat, where messages or pictures delete after a certain amount of time. Discord is a good example of one of those. Telegram is another one. So really from a prevention standpoint, one, delaying the age that youth are able to get their first phone, and social media. So really looking at the recommended age for the apps. Not a lot of parents realize that the apps do come, if you read sort of the fine print of the app,
Nobody does,
they
yeah.
come with the age that they recommend for certain apps, right? So I think TikTok is for, I don't know, I think it's like 13 to 15 in terms of their recommendation. So really looking at that. And then keeping an eye on your child's devices as a parent and being able to monitor. I'm happy to talk more about that. I know that that's a huge initiative in town in terms of social media and phone usage, but I'm happy to give tips and tricks on that.
Thank you. That's why you're here. That's why you're so great. So the last question is, you had mentioned inhalants that are deadly with their first use. Can you just give me an example, a couple of them, people can be aware?
Yeah, I can't speak, and Carissa, you might know more knowledge than I haven't worked in direct prevention in many years, as Carissa does, but we know from huffing, which involves, I don't want to say actually too much here because you don't want to educate
Oh, geez, yeah.
young
For
people.
parents to look out for. I'm like, I don't even, I'm so sorry, I'm so naive, I don't know what that
Yeah,
is.
I mean, perhaps Carissa can send you all some more details because I don't want it to be publicized. But, there are different chemicals that can be ingested that can be deadly upon first use in seeking some sort of altered state or high, for lack of a better word.
Okay, thank you. We'll do it on the down low. Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All set, Councilor
Yes, thank
Carbone? And Councilor Carbone, thank you for your active involvement on the Youth Advisory Board.
They do everything, I just show up once in a while.
Appreciate it.
It's
And
good.
as Erica might remember, I was on that a long time ago. It was kind of how I got started getting involved in community stuff in Wethersfield. And you guys do a great job. But again, thank you, Councilor Carbone. I think Deputy Mayor Rhodes, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you. I appreciate this data every year, and partly because I know that you're planning programs around it, and I think that data-driven piece is so important in making sure that we're really tackling what's going on in town. So I just thank you. It's so helpful to see where things are at right now.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rhodes. Councilor Bailey.
Thank you. That is quite eye-opening. Really. I mean, it's quite eye-opening. In the students who had tried to hurt themselves, and I think it was whatever the number, but there was like 50% who felt they didn't have support or couldn't find it or didn't want it. Do you have anything about that at all?
So we don't have additional survey data about that, but one of the beauties of having Carissa have such a strong youth coalition in place, she has inroads with the youth. Do you want to take it from her?
Yes.
Well, I'm just looking, it says 61 7th and 8th grade feel that there's no support.
Yeah.
Well, I want to give a caveat to that too.
Go ahead.
So that is of the youth who reported seriously considering suicide. So 61% of the middle school students.
61% of the 20% or whatever it was, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Just want to make sure we weren't
Yeah.
walking away
No,
with
no,
that
yeah.
headline, but yes. Yep.
So I would say a couple of things. Both the middle and the high school do have what's called a wellness center in their buildings, and that is a place where all students can go to receive support throughout the school day. What I will say is that the high school's wellness center was implemented before the middle school's wellness center, so not that this is the reason for those numbers, but the middle schoolers are really still starting to get to know what a wellness center is and what it looks like and how to access it. So I know that there has been a push from the middle school staff to be able to really send students there for support over the last year. They've sort of rebranded the space over the last year as well, moved things around, made it more friendly, welcoming. So kudos to them for doing that. I think that that's one thing that we'll look forward to seeing in terms of highlights for looking for support. The other thing is that peer-to-peer messaging. So we hope, and the Youth Coalition is really centered around what's called the peer-to-peer messaging. So peers are really taking this data, they're putting it out in front of other students that they are in classes with, that they play sports with, that they are out and about in the community with, and they're teaching them about it. And so that opens up a conversation where they can talk about certain issues, right? Things that relate to maybe thoughts of harm, things that might need an adult to interfere. And so that's kind of the whole purpose of it. One example for today is Read Across America in a lot of the elementary schools. And our We Hope Youth Coalition, we had 9 students who took the time today to go on a field trip to Highcrest, and they all read to elementary school students today. So even before the students sort of know, where they're going in terms of high school, they were able to ask questions about the high school. They were able to have a friendly face so that when they're out in the community at those traditions, things like that, they're able to really have a sense of who's around them.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Bailey. Further, Councilor Dirk?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, ladies, for all the work. You're doing a great presentation. I'm just wondering, if looking at the data, how often do you see that if somebody, let's say, has issues, they report issues with alcohol, they have issues with gambling and everything else, and how often do you see that students are struggling just with, let's say, one thing of all the things that we surveyed them for?
I feel like that's a first question. Congratulations. So, Luca, I'm interpreting the question as, are they using one substance or multiple substances? I don't believe we have data at hand on that, but I know that part of why we like to come out and have these conversations is that Luke likes to go back and find out. So he will certainly look into that, I'm sure, and send it to Carissa, who will share it with you.
Thank you. Well, the main reason I'm asking that is because, is it common that if we see that somebody is using one thing, can we suspect and be on the lookout for anything else? Or is it just that so many kids are using one thing at a time, so it's probably hard to say that everything else might look perfect, but then they're gambling in the meantime. So, but thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to the answer.
Thank you, Councilor Dirk. Councilor Wands.
I want to thank you all for doing the survey and appreciate the fact that we've done this several years in a row with you, so we've got some longitudinal data now as well. Bonnie, do you deploy this in other communities in the state as well, the same survey? And I'm just wondering, are there other communities that are showing improvements in ways that we're more flatlining, or ways that we could look to seeing if they're doing something different than we're doing in Wethersfield?
So we have, I mentioned before, we do have 75,000 youth in our data set, which we're pretty proud of. And we have about 40 districts that survey with us on various cycles. So many of the districts we work with do have trend available. I will say that trends look good when we look at the overall picture of grades 7 through 12, particularly around mental health. When we look at middle schools alone, follow a similar trend here, where middle school students are struggling more than high school students with mental health. And we are seeing improvement across most substances and related risk factors, but we do know that marijuana or cannabis is more difficult to see those shifts, and we do oftentimes see that in the data. Prescription drug misuse, I know with the opioid epidemic, we've talked about it here before. Thankfully, evidence of that does not typically come out in youth data. We tend to start to see that in young adult and, of course, adult data.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wands. Further council questions or comments? I have a question, but before that, I want to reiterate, thank you so much. This is really important data. Bonnie and Luke. Carissa, thank you for all the work you're doing. I know a lot about the We Hope, and I such a big believer in that, and having 40 peers work with other students, that's terrific. Erica, thank you for leading all this. My question is about, and it's one area, and we haven't covered it yet, is a concern I have about underreporting. So folks with thoughts of suicide, self-harm, gambling, substance abuse, do we have a factor in, or do we have some concerns about students might not self-admit that they have these issues going on? And my guess is that may be fairly common, that some students, when they get a question like that on the survey, even though if they have these issues, are not going to say they do. So I'd ask your response to that.
Sure, that makes perfect sense why you would ask. So what I like to say in response to that is that survey data are always imperfect, but what we find is they're consistently imperfect in the sense that I can pretty much, just like we looked at the district reference groups, I can pretty much predict what the data will say by district reference group. So whereas we may have an underreport, it's a systematic underreport. So we know that there may be additional youth that are at risk, but we feel confident, especially with the sample size that we have here, that these data are very accurate. Luke does remove any students who say that they have done every substance every day, for example. There's ways to look at
Hopefully we don't have someone like that.
Right. It's unlikely that person would be in a great place to take a survey if those were true results. Luke, is there anything else to that I should add? Okay.
Good. Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, good. Thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation. Thank you. We're going to move on in our agenda. And counselors, just so you know, it says under presentations, quarterly strategic plan report. We do not have a presentation for that. There's information in your packet for that about where we are with the strategic plan. So moving on to the next item, which is hearings, C-1, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This was on for introduction at the last meeting. Again, this is a resolution to accept the Community Investment Fund Grant Award for planning for the William Pitkin Community Center complex. This is $250,000 that the state has awarded us for the purpose of developing the plans for expansion and renovation. And as a requirement of receiving that grant, the council is requested to approve the resolution that's in your packet, and to hold a public hearing as part of that. So that's just it's a formality at this point. We did report on this when we applied, and now we just need to accept the money because it has been awarded.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. And as our rules indicate, we have to have a public hearing on this. So if anybody from the public wants to speak just about this item, we will have regular public comment coming up soon, and then, of course, at the end of our meeting. But does anybody want to make public comment just on this item? Seeing none, we will move on to regular public comment, and I'm going to read what I always read. During the public comment period, members of the public will have 5 minutes to speak on any issue. We have a lighted timer at the podium to help each speaker be aware of the time remaining for them to address the council. When you step up to the podium, please state your name and address. At this point, the green light, say your name and address. The green light will come on showing you have your 5 minutes have begun. The yellow light will come on when you have 1 minute left. This time we ask you to start to wrap up your comments. The red light will come on when you have reached the 5 minute limit, and we'll be asked to conclude your comments. After speaking, we ask you to return to your seat. We ask that you address your comments to the entire council and refrain from speaking directly about an individual council member or the audience. Please refrain from any derogatory comments or personal attack. Please always remain respectful. This section is for public comment, and the council will generally not engage in a back and forth dialogue during this portion of the agenda. If any follow-up is needed, please leave your name of contact information with the town clerk, and the town manager will follow up with you. At this time, I'll open up the public comment section. Does anybody from the public want to speak tonight? Tom, I saw your hand first.
Good evening, Tom Mazzarella, 600 Walcott Hill Road. I just want to make a suggestion. Town needs to sell cookies. That's going to solve all our financial problems.
That's a good suggestion, Tom, and good to start with some humor.
The radio system program, 15-year program, totals almost $14 million. That's a significant purchase. Is it a fair price? I don't know. I don't see how anybody up here could know. It wasn't a competitive bid program. How do we know if the price is fair? I think it's a reasonable question. There was very little information provided to the public. I went through the packet that the counselors saw. You know, it was a summary of the presentation that was given at the prior meeting. My research, which wasn't extensive, says that L3 Harris is probably the top of the line company to provide this service. It's the specific model that we're looking at, or system that we're looking at, is considered a Cadillac system. It has all the bells and whistles. And my question is that what the town needs? Or do we need something that might be less, but is very secure, up to date, and reliable? Those are what's really important here, at least in my opinion. I don't feel that the 1.5 hour presentation discussion was sufficient for council members to make a decision. Otherwise, we're just relying on, well, the town staff said this is what we need to do, and that's the way we're going to vote. Now, I honestly believe the town staff did a really good job negotiating the price, but maybe it would have been helpful to say, this thing started out at 22 million, and we got it down to 14. So yeah, it's a fair price. One of the most shocking points to me is the maintenance program. The maintenance program totals $4.8 million. That's over 50% of the cost of the system. I mean, if they're building a reliable system, how can they possibly put roughly $320,000 a year into maintaining that system? You're talking about software updates? Well, that's on their nickel. They sold you the thing. When they need to come out with a revised software packet to improve the system, we shouldn't have to pay for that. That's part of it. I mean, how much time does the Randy fellow spend coming up to Wethersfield? Is the system that poor that the people have to come up here 3-4 times a week? I mean, I just put the numbers together. It's way out of line in my opinion. Excuse me. The other item that struck me was they marketed it as a no single point of failure system. Heavily redundant. Great. That's what we need for our radio system. Councilor Forrest asked the question, how is our current system performing? Have there been failures? And town staff cited, yeah, there's been a couple failures. One was caused by a transfer switch and a UPS system failure. The other that was mentioned was a HVAC system failure. Those don't have anything to do with this proposal, as far as I know. We have to put a lot of money into the shelters and the other facilities with UPS systems, with generators, with batteries. I just think this thing needs a little more work. And I'll wrap up for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Further public comment? Anybody else from the... Mr. Melody, did you have your hand up? Okay, Mr. Young and then Melody.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I agree with Mr. Mazzarella about the cost of that system that they are proposing to put in. As a matter of fact, I think I read, I know I was here while they were talking about the old, when they did put in this particular system some years ago, and the price was around $3 million. And at that time, that was a heck of a lot of money. And I looked at this as well as, like Mr. Mazzarella, that's a heck of a lot of money for the system and then for maintenance. And I think something has to be done, like a reduction in the price long before you make any agreements. I mean, these are tough times, and they have been tough times, and they're going to get more tough times when we start looking at paying $608,000 a year for 15 years, another $226,000 probably for 15 years also. I mean, that's $830,000 a year on our tax bills. I would fully recommend you table this and go back and negotiate. It's the more sensible thing to do than spend, well, how much was it? 30, I don't know what the grand total was. But anyway, that was a heck of a lot of money compared to what the original one cost us. Next. At the last town council meeting, at the very end of the meeting, Ms. Carbone made a comment regarding some comments that I made regarding the cost of the referendum, the $239 million referendum that was passed. And she made a suggestion about maybe I should go to those meetings. I'm not going to those meetings downstairs. I'll come to a meeting here. If it's not being broadcast, I wouldn't waste my time anymore. I went to some meetings down there. I can barely hear those people talk. And who knows what they were talking about while I was sitting there, okay? I'm not wasting my time. Next. Also, the same night, the manager said that all the information was presented leading up to the design with all costs for materials, all costs for labor, all costs for escalation. That's all we have now. Mr. Werner says we did have all the itemized information out there. I fully disagree with those statements, and I had made FOI requests during that time, and my FOIs, matter of fact, when I saw, long before this little thin explanatory text came out, I wanted to know how much the interest was going to be on the bonds. Okay? And the bonds were going to be issued for $239 million. The bonds, those numbers were calculated by a town of Wethersfield people. And those numbers should have been provided. Instead, I'm told at that time from the town manager's office, we want you to know, you want to know what the state of Connecticut total interest cost is for their portion of the Wethersfield School project. The town doesn't have that information. You need to request that from the state of Connecticut. That's in writing. And then it goes on to say that they haven't, that you also want to know the town's total interest. There are no responsive documents to this request, as we have not bonded the project to date, and thus would not be able to answer your request. Well, first of all, I was asking about the referendum, $239,000, not about how much the bonds were actually going to cost. I was talking about the concept of this whole thing, and those concept numbers should have been made available to us. Your two members sitting up here tonight, who said that one was a town manager and the other's a town council member, said that all the information was out there. I badgered with the town manager's office over the issue of the
Thank you,
interest.
thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you. Further public comment, Melody, I saw your hand up. Mr. Woodward, did you have your hand up? Okay, I'm going to call on Melody first, and then you're after. We can talk about UConn when you come up. Melody, you're up, though.
Melody Boganpani, 59 Toller Terrace. Hello, I'm Melody. You can use they, her pronouns when referring to me. I found it very fitting with the youth data that we saw with the mental health and everything. I heard that they have like gender identity and biological sex, and I know that with a lot of the repetitive attacks coming from the federal government, I wonder if those that have a different gender identity that doesn't align with their biological sex, I wonder if their depression went up, or if their anxiety went up, or if they just feel like they don't really have those resources to reach out to, or have the language with how to speak with what's on their mind. Yeah, so I found that very fitting that we had that, and yeah. And I also want to make another comment that I hope that you all saw that email that I sent to you yesterday. If not, that's fine. But I saw that in the paper on NPR, and it was also being reported by some other journalists, that the PX, the Secretary of Defense, is basically trying to attack those that are in Scouting America and trying to say that's too woke or whatever. I don't know what comes out of his mouth. But I sent an email to find out what could be done to protect those that we have in Scouting America, which is our local troop 85. To my knowledge, I don't know if there are any girls that are in Troop 85, or if there are any like non-binary or trans people. But I feel like we need to have those safeguards in place, because this federal government has shown us time and time again that they do not have the best interest for those that are gender diverse, and we really need to do something to safeguard the Scouting America to make sure that everyone feels safe. Is it okay if I pass something out? Yes?
Yeah, you
okay.
can leave it with the town clerk right here.
Yeah, so I just want to, here's this. Yeah, so I highlighted some points there. The first article is from Aaron Reed, who is a trans journalist, and the second one is from NPR. The one from Aaron Reed basically talks about how devastating these changes could be more towards trans people, and NPR kind of glosses over the whole thing, the whole situation pretty much. And then I want to segue to Girl Scouts, which I also found it very fitting that it's 114 years of Girl Scouts this month. I looked at Girl Scouts LGBTQ plus policies, and I actually found like a whole bunch of different resources within the Girl Scouts. I knew that Girl Scouts welcomed trans girls, but they also allow like non-binary people, which I found very fitting, and it's very inclusive. It seems very welcoming, and it just seems like a whole different world compared to what's going on with Scouting America right now. I mean, I would love to pass these out too. So I found these ones. I think this was the what was it? I think this was like the National Girl Scouts, basically given like breakdowns of like what gender identity is, like pronouns, how important they are, stuff like that. And And then I found this one, I believe, this one was from a Minnesota organization, so it gives you like all the different LGBTQ plus resources that the Girl Scouts could find. And then I also found this one from Illinois, which is a way to support LGBTQ plus youth in Girl Scouts. And then I also found this, that the Girl Scouts also have an LGBTQ plus Pride Month fun patch. And there's that. And I know I'm short on time, so I thank you very much for this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you. Further, Mr. Woodward? As you come up here, we'll note the 31-0 Yukon women's season. And congratulations. Are you going to the Big East Women's Tournament?
No.
No. Okay.
I will do what I always do for a game that I don't attend, which is only at the People's Bank Arena. I'll sit there and listen to Bob and Debbie on the radio, who do a wonderful job of broadcasting a game.
Well, that's good. And I think they're going to do well in the Big East Tournament. Anyways, Bob,
I think they will.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Bob Woodward. I live at 456 Middletown Avenue in Wethersfield. Last month, I phoned the superintendent's office. I usually don't do that. We don't have children. I don't call the school system. But I called and I said, I understand you're working on a budget. Could you please keep it at worst the same as last year? And he said, well, I can't, but we'll keep it the lowest in the area. And then I heard all of you talk last month about a 4.4, actually the rare reminder said it's 4.48, which is almost 4.5% increase. And I thought that's a very insensitive budget. How many seniors do we have in this town? A significant number, I believe. Social Security went up 2.8 overall. Now, whether we got a 2.8% increase in the money that comes from us depends on what goes out for Medicare and other things that are deducted. Mine didn't come out, my cash back increase didn't come out to quite 2.8. My pension went up 1.5. Average it out, you're at about 2.3 maybe. That would have been a reasonable increase. 4.48 is going to hurt a lot of people. You look at where groceries are, home heating oil, medical costs, electric bills, that's going to hurt a lot of people. That's a very insensitive increase right now. And whatever you can do to keep the radio system costs down, I think would be reasonable too, because it's getting tough out here. And we need some sense from the town that you understand this, that we all didn't make a 4.48 increase. And I'd be surprised if even working people did, to tell you the truth. So thank you for listening. I appreciate your time, and I will be interested to see where all this budget situation goes.
Thank you, Mr. Woodward. Do I have further public comment tonight? Seeing none, we're going to move on to council reports. Does any councilor have a report this evening to give? Deputy Mayor Rhodes?
Bear with me just a moment while I pull them up. I wasn't able to attend my two committees, but I did get reports from them to share, so I wanted to just pass along some information. The first one is one of the conversations that we've had throughout the community over the last months and years is around food insecurity in town. And as a part of trying to coordinate all of the different organizations and groups in town who are trying to address food insecurity, we want you to save a date if that's something that you are interested in. So we want to get this out to people. On March 31st, we're going to be doing essentially a food security initiative to pull together the different people who are involved in various capacities to sit down. It's 4:30 to 6. It's going to be at the community center. You can reach out to Erica at Human Services. If you'd like to attend or if you want more information about it, there'll also be a flyer going out shortly. It might have even gone out today, I don't know. But so save the date for that, 4:30 to 6 on March 31st at the Community Center. And then I need to pivot, and Kim Bobbin over at WEC passed along some good information as well. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. So the next WEC meeting is going to be March 9th from 4:30 to 6 in the Fireside Room at Pitkin. The guest speaker this month is going to be Ava Bermuda Zimmerman, who's a coalition director of Child Care for Connecticut, which is a statewide coalition working to strengthen Connecticut's families and the economy. We know child care is a huge issue in not just Connecticut, in the country. And so that's a conversation to be continuing. Professional development for preschools and family home daycare providers. WEC's going to be hosting a professional development for preschools and family home daycare providers with they're starting with a networking meeting on March 30th, also at Pitkin Center from 7 to 8. Again, you can just reach out to Kim at the town for more information, Kim Bobbin. There's also going to be free play Fridays that are being promoted, and
For the council?
I know, right? For everybody. This is a part of the Balance Project that's going on, and they're encouraging every Friday from 4 to 6 for people to open their doors, send their kids outside, open the garage, get out on your bikes, but to really encourage people throughout neighborhoods. We know that when kids see other kids outside playing, they are more likely to go outside and play. And so they're really trying to encourage the community-wide to support children in neighborhoods getting out to play on Fridays from 4 to 6. So encourage your neighbors, and if you've got children of your own, get them outside. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rhodes. Councilor Wands?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Capital Improvements Advisory Committee finished its work for the year, so I want to thank the committee and all the town staff that came and made presentations. The information that's going to come to us is going to be a little bit different this year as opposed to past years, where they had a ranked list of 1 all the way down to the number of projects. There were 30 projects that they reviewed. They grouped 18 as being in recommendation for us to consider funding at whatever level we can fund. Rather than rank them that way, they want to give us, this is our grouping of projects. So they've got 18 projects that total about $1.6 million that we will be deciding from. There's another group that will be in blue that are projects that the town feels like we will be able to go after other sources of money for, but they're also high level projects. So kind of a little bit different way of getting the numbers when we go into budget season. The Tourism Commission met last week. They're continuing to work on America 250 and ways of celebrating our nation's 250th birthday, including using the very modest funds they have, which are about $9,000. Usually we use those funds to market towards people coming into Wethersfield. This year, some of the funds will be used to help make sure that residents of Wethersfield know about the activities and the wonderful programs that will be happening before July 4th, a concentration around the 4th of July, and then after. So there'll be some Wethersfield Life inserts, some press release pushes, talking about having some banners and signs up either on the Keeney or on Marsh Road as you come into Wethersfield. So looking for some other ways of helping to let the town know about the activities that will be celebrating our nation's birthday. And then last, Historic District Commission, their next meeting will be next week on Tuesday at 7:30. They had several town items up from Parks and Rec last time looking at relocation of the town bench that's in front of First Church, and as well as some improvements at the Cove, the little shed there that is entrance for fees, and some signage. So continually having some items there go before the commission, and some of those will be back up for us again. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wands. Further council reports. Councilor Carbone.
Thank you. I was at the Park and Rec meeting, and I heard about the shed going before HDC.
It did. It was tabled, and they were going to come back with some future designs.
From what I understand, it's a Dutch door issue.
They did not like the doors on the shed and thought that maybe we could have something that looked less like a shed that you would put in your backyard at anyone's home.
Sorry, I have to mention it because it just gets, it's really interesting how it goes around here. But anyway, so I was at the Park and Rec meeting. Thank you, Scott, Councilor Wands. And the Millwoods the updated Millwoods master plan will be ready for view this month online. And you can take a peek at it. They're going to be having a information session at the Pitkin on April 23rd. So it gives everybody a chance to review the plan and go over it, and then come to the meeting and give some input, go have an overview and give some input. And I would just remind everyone that there was, I think, a 2004 master plan for Millwoods that still has not been completed. So just because it says it's on the master plan doesn't mean it's happening, this year, next year. It's just, it's a conceptual master plan of what we'd like to see done, or what this KBA has come up with, things would be the best fit for our park. And it gives us goals to work towards and get some things done. So we hope you come out for that. And the harbor management report had been completed and reviewed by the harbor masters and the police chief. That was submitted to the Connecticut DEP. Once that's approved, it'll come back to us, we'll approve it, and then every 5 years we'll have an updated harbor management plan. The last thing is the Youth Sports League is going to try to establish some youth sport standards within the town youth sport organizations. Say that 5 times fast. And the intent is to establish some guidelines to provide a format for a positive youth sport experience in town. It just kind of gives a standardized list of expectations and almost an understanding, if you will, what each organization within the Wethersfield, because I don't know if people know that they're actually separate entities. Did you guys know that? That they come in, well, of course, some of you know that. But I didn't understand that. I thought it was all provided through the town, but it's different groups will come in and take over the different sports organizations. So just gives almost a guideline for everyone to have it be more standardized. And that'll be coming out soon. They're working on that. And I just want to say it was very refreshing. I woke up, I heard birds singing, and it's supposed to warm up soon. So I'm getting excited talking about the Park and Rec stuff. So I hope you guys are all looking forward to spring as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone, and definitely looking forward to spring. Spring hopes are eternal.
Can't wait.
Anybody else? I have a couple quick ones. Anybody else have a councilor report? So I have 2. First, I attended the insurance committee, and we had a report from one of our insurance partners, Kerma, which we're doing very well with. The thing I want to kind of highlight for the council and the public is, our insurance committee tracks the use of insurance programs by employees. And what I want to highlight, we're seeing, this may not come as a surprise to people, a significant or dramatic increase from some of our employees in the use of weight loss drugs. And that's affecting the budget and pharmacy. And it's a big issue over the next few years, our cost for potential, not just that drug, but pharmacy costs. And there was some discussion about that. In the interest of time, I'll move on to the next one. I attended the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, which I'm going to mention for a second. Tom, who's in the audience, not to wake you up, but one of the items that we talked about was the survey that Tom and others and myself worked on, and it is just about ready to go, everybody. The important point about this is we're going to send a survey out to our senior citizens about what their needs are in the community, and we've been working that for a while. As mentioned, Tom, when he was on the committee, he worked on that. So thank you. The other issue is that came up is their budget, but I'm going to save time, and councilors, we're going to get that when we review the budget. That's all I have for council reports. Does anybody else have anything? If not, I'm going to go to council comments. Does any councilor want to make a comment tonight? Councilor Pentelo. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, or afternoon, and good after wherever we're here. I have to honestly say, I know after our meeting when we talked about the radios, I want to say thanks to Fred. He did a meeting, we were able to go. I know people didn't hear about it. There was another meeting on Friday. Shelley attended through Zoom. I went to it. I had the same concerns as Tom Mazzarella did. But I found that some of I asked the chiefs, the fire chief and the police chief directly, do we need this? Is there anything else we can do? Because I was looking at, I feel like we spent so much money. When they broke it down for us and how long it was out, 15 years. But at the end of the 15 years, I don't want to say we have a new system, but we have a system that's 100% current. And if we stop using it at that moment for the maintenance program, it could go for another 10 without a problem, just like we're holding on with this one. The biggest problem people don't understand right now is if it goes down tonight, it's not like we could just call Hartford and say, can we use your radios? We can't give them CB radios to walk around. It's the GPS part. It's that. So I thought I was going to be a pushover with this, but I'm still struggling how much money it's going to cost.
Yeah, we all are.
Right. And at the end of the day, when you look at that number, there was maintenance fees already included into the program. The maintenance fees are a little bit higher, but the only caveat I have is that at the end of this, which none of you are going to be here, especially sitting here.
I won't be here.
Ken, you probably will still be the mayor.
15 years I won't be here, and you can count.
I will just say, at the end of the day, we won't have to worry about radios for the safety of our firemen, our policemen, and the town workers, as well as the ambulance personnel. I wish we could get it cheaper, but when you break it down, just like if you go less years, it's more cost. So the biggest thing that I saw with this group, Al Harris, you're right, it's a Cadillac edition, but they're also banking on a certain number that it doesn't go up higher than that. So they're taking the gamble, we're not taking the gamble. Knowing that, I'd have to say, I wasn't for it, but at this point now I'm more afraid of it going down, the radio system going down for our police officers, firemen, and the workers. So I wanted to make sure I said that because even in the meeting, in the last meeting, I said, look, it's really hard to have anybody swallow this when we already know we need more things in our town. Desperately. Dispatch center, fire truck. There's a lot of things coming up that we don't have the money. So I just wanted to say this is one of those ones that I struggled on, but it's imperative that we get a radio system that works and works efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pentelow. Further council comments, Councilor Dirk.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things. I'm going to start with the one that Mr. Pentelow just mentioned. I wasn't here for the part of the meeting that was a presentation about radio system. I did attend the meeting on Friday, and the way I see it, and again, I wasn't here, but I think more information could have been provided. We're not swallowing $14 million in addition to what we're paying right now. We are already paying tons of money, and if we don't even go with this new system, we're still going to spend tons of money over the next 15 years, as we are already. So I don't know if it was shown, but the difference between what we are already paying for the system that's not good and what we're going to pay for the system that's going to give us everything that we need, it's not that significant. Yes, it's more money, but it's not $14 million. It's not $15 million. The way I understand it is it's about roughly on average about 130,000 more a year between what we are already paying for the bad system compared to the new system you're going to get. But again, I wish we provided more information just so it's more clear, so it's not coming from me. So two more things. Number one, this is the month of fasting for Muslims. We fast throughout the day until the sunset. So next Wednesday, which is the March 11th, we are doing annual dinner at the Wethersfield High School at the cafeteria. It's free, it's open to public, everybody is welcome. So if you want to come meet some new neighbors, learn about the fasting, the Muslims, the Islam, wherever it is, you're all free to come. We would love to have you there. And it's usually about between 150, 200 people at the event. So it's a nice event, and a lot of homemade food as well. And the last thing I want to mention is I want to my fellow Bosnian Americans, I want to say Happy Independence Day. It was the one that we paid a heavy price for, but it was worth every penny, and it was worth every single life that we gave for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dirk. Further council comments? Nobody has any. I have a few. First, today I got to participate in Read Across America. This is a national event to promote reading, and I went to the Highcrest School, and I went to Charles Wright. I read a book about yaks, yep, Y-A-K. I read a book about creepy underwear. The kids picked them. I didn't pick them. I read a book about Curious George, and the kids were wonderful, and we had a lot of town staff, town residents participate. It was a lot of fun. I'll just remark that one kid wanted to know if this was my job, if I had another job, and I said I was retired, and another kid, what does that mean? I should have said this is kindergartners and first graders, separate classes, but this particular class. What does that mean, you're retired? And another kid jumps up in the shouts out, that means he's really old and he doesn't work anymore. So that's the kind of joy I had. No, it was great to read to the kids today. I had an opportunity. There was another community celebration, iftar dinner, right before this at the community center. I had a chance to go there and participate in that, and that was great. The other one I want to mention, counselors, and I think Counselor Wands, you're in for this, but I hope other counselors will join myself and Counselor Wands. This Saturday is the annual St. Patrick's Day Parade, March 7th. It tips off at the Capitol at about 11. It's maybe an hour. I mean, they ask you to get there early, but you don't have to get there that early. Anyway, any counselor that wants to go can meet me, and we will represent Wethersfield. And I think the early weather looks good. Warmer, maybe some rain. So thank you, Counselor Wands. Anybody wants to march and be part and celebrate? You're on the list. So Counselor Rhodes, you'll be there. We'll be celebrating the rich Irish heritage. I have other stuff, but we'll keep the meeting moving. It doesn't have to be said tonight. So we're going to move on. Town Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real briefly, I do want to thank and acknowledge the staff, physical services, PD, fire, and Aetna ambulance for working through the blizzard. That was a very challenging storm, and I know people were complaining a little bit about their roads on the following day. There was a lot of hard pack, but there was a salt shortage that was statewide. In fact, I was talking with a lot of the communities around us dealing with the same thing, saying, do you know where to get any salt? But I think our crews did a fantastic job. I mean, within a day, everything was cleared off, and I think they did a wonderful job. Thank you all. And Chief Schroll had all the stations manned throughout the event, and I know Aetna Ambulance had 2 ambulances in town throughout the entire event, and so everything, knock on wood, everything went smoothly as could be. The other thing I want to mention is at some point spring will be here, and it is 60-degree weather is coming up this weekend. Reminder to set your clocks forward on Sunday. That's a good sign of spring right there. But also a reminder, yard waste collection will begin the first full week of April. So if you have not purchased the barrel yet, brown barrel, there's a link on the town website to All Waste, and you can give them a call and you can order a barrel, or you can use the brown bags. But so that'll be the first full week of April on the same day as your recycling, and obviously we want to get as many people as possible utilizing this service. So what's not in the green barrel that should be in the brown barrel is just going to save us money down the road. So it's a good thing for the environment, and it's good all the way around. So just please take advantage of that service. And that concludes my comments.
Town Manager, may I interject for a moment?
Yes, Councilor
Please? I'm so
Carbone.
sorry. Town Manager, you brought up 2 very good points, and people were asking me questions about, they're seeing the marks on the pavement from the treated salt, or whatever it is. I think it's sodium chloride that's in the, because we bought both, regular salt and the treated salt, correct?
Sally Katz is here, the Director of Physical Services. She can
So
answer
people were
more
asking me
specifically.
questions, is this environmentally sound? Some people are saying you can't dump the snow in the water. It's like, is it?
Nobody can dump snow in the water. That hasn't been allowed for
Well,
years, but yeah.
I'm just saying, like.
Yeah. Yeah. Sally, do you want to speak to the?
The comments are making it's not, we brought half of the.
As Sally comes up, I will reiterate the great job that Sally's team did, that
They really
Chief
did.
Schroll did. And I also got a few people question about the salt and some of the curbs got ripped up a little bit. I got some pictures of those sent to me, but amazing job. But Sally, please.
So Sally Katz, Director of Physical Services. We did buy both treated salt and rock salt this year.
Yeah.
One of the things with the treated salt is that we use less of it. And so it gets put down, it takes some time. It does work. We feel better than using more of the other salt. Other towns have found that by using the treated salt, less of the residue is leaching into waterways or into the ground. And so the white residue will wash away. I mean, over time.
I know, I think people are just curious, it's okay, obviously, I'm assuming
Yeah,
there's
and
been
it's no
studies
more,
and-
it's no more corrosive than the rock salt, and in fact, because we use less of it, it probably is less corrosive than the amount of just having rock salt sitting on asphalt, or if it gets mixed in with the snow and gets, as people are doing their walkways, getting thrown onto their lawns and things like that.
So it's not any more damaging than the regular salt or to
No,
our
it should
wildlife
be
and our
less.
health and everything? Okay. That's how people have been asking, so I didn't know what to say. I'm like, I have
I don't
no
know why
idea.
you're up
Call
here. Any
Sal.
other comments or?
And yes, there are times when we have taken up curb doing plowing.
happens. It happens. You guys did a
We
great
will be
job.
going back. Anyone can call the Physical Services Office. We put in a work order. We've started to establish that list and prioritize as the weather improves to be able to go out and to make those repairs for curbing and mailboxes. And so people have been calling the office and letting us know. And also to thank the residents through the storm. They adhered to the parking bans. They were out there, at times waving and smiling to us, which was really appreciated. And the other pitch I will put in is, because tomorrow we may have a little bit of snow and things, but also the importance of people getting out there and clearing a path on their sidewalks. We have a lot of students who, regardless of the weather, they walk to school, and so being able to walk on the sidewalk and not walk in the street is very, very important. So I know that it can be difficult to go out there 2, 3, 4 times during a storm to clean off the sidewalk, but it really does help the community at large. So I just wanted to thank the residents for doing that.
Yeah, we had that meeting about, it's very difficult for students to get to school and there's a lot of people on the street right now, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So, PSA.
Thank you, Sally. And just Councilor Carpone's referencing, we had a leadership team meeting that we have every month with the superintendent, a couple board council members, with Fred, myself, Sally was there, and we did talk about that, and it is an important issue for, I hope we don't get another big storm. We're all ready for spring, but if we do, it's important for all the residents to clear their sidewalks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else, Sally?
No, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. You're all set. Sue, anything under town clerk's report?
I have nothing to report.
So brief. That's good. Thank you. Appreciate it, Sue. Okay, so we're going to move on to item I1. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Rotes.
Motion to authorize the town manager to execute a network upgrade agreement with Eastern Communications Ltd. for equipment upgrades over a 15-year period to the town's L3 Harris Public Safety Radio System, and to amend the current maintenance agreement with L3 Harris through the same period.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Discussion on the motion. Councilor Dirk.
Thank you, Mayor. Town Manager, could you just give a short breakdown of the numbers that we were shown at the meeting? Just so, again, it might have been done last meeting, I wasn't here, but just so you all get a feeling for what is it that you're talking about as far as the difference between what we have and what we pay compared to what we're going to pay going forward.
Sure. Bob Kelleher is here with the specific information. You want to come up?
Copy of the whole presentation, but on the back side is the numbers that you're looking for. Sorry, I sound a little raspy. I had a head cold.
What's happening? Yeah, that's what I'm looking
Thank you, Bob. Counselor Dirk, do you want to?
Yeah, I can just briefly speak to what you were referencing, Counselor. So if we go back to the annual cost we had back just 3 years ago, we were paying over $742,000 on the lease agreement for the old system that we've been trying to replace now since I've been here. Actually, this was a presentation that was being done when I was being interviewed for this job to replace the system at that time 4 years ago. So that amount had expired. We were at $742 for the total of the lease payment, which was roughly $400,000, and then the maintenance agreement, which was $205,000, and then we were paying for a sums agreement. And so total, that was $742,000. What we're proposing here to pay on an annual basis is $879,000, which again is about $135,000 over what we were paying just 2 years ago. Now that lease did end. It was in 2023 it was $403,000, and then in 2024 the last payment was $201,000. But every year before that was the $403,000. So what we're trying to do in the negotiations over the last few years is work with L3 Harris and Eastern Communications to come up with a proposal that would do two things really: get us as close to that figure that we were paying before for the outdated system, but two, come up with a plan that over the lifespan of the agreement would never be obsolete. Because right now we're in a situation where it is obsolete, and it has been for a few years now, and it just leaves us vulnerable. It's a place we don't want to be. So what we proposed is we wanted to have a plan that would upgrade throughout the course of the 15-year agreement, and at the end of that 15 years, as it was stated earlier, we would have a plan that was completely up to date. And we could at that time decide if we wanted to extend and do further upgrades, or we could stand pat and just have a maintenance agreement and still have a system that was viable for several years forward. We wanted to not put ourselves into the same situation we are in currently, because it's not a position we want to be in. So that essentially is what we worked on. We were trying to get to $800,000. We got it close. It's $879 is the total cost for both the lease payment and the maintenance agreement combined. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And again, I'm asking these just so that everybody has the information. And based on the meeting that we had on Friday, I asked, if there were other options, and we were told that you guys looked at different options. Can you just briefly say what those options are, and is this the best option, cheapest option, compared to everything else that we had on table?
So yes, we did look at different options. We looked at going along into the state system. We also looked at other system operators. So like we used to have Motorola. That would include basically tearing everything out that we have now and bringing in all brand new as it would be. So it would be actually more cost to that than it would be worth. When we started talking with L3 Harris does the maintenance, and that's, they do the weekly maintenance of stuff. If something breaks, they're here within probably 20 minutes to an hour at the most, getting everything up and running. Myself, John, and some others have come in and done things in the interim as well. But one of the things that we've done is taken the sums updates. We actually got L3 Harris to knock that down by about $70,000, which is a huge amount for these patches and upgrades that they do constantly. And the reason why we have L3 Harris come out and do that is because we actually have to shut sites down when we do these things. So you can't have the radio system fail at any time. So what we'll do is put it in a bypass. We have them patch stuff in, update everything, make sure the update runs properly. Then we'll sit there and bring that site back up, go to the next site, shut that one down, and do the upgrades that way. So it's not like it's just a come in, hey, they plug something in and they're going out the door. It's a lot of stuff that's intertwined in this. They do yearly maintenance where they come out and actually tune our system to make sure that everything's basically in the right levels that it has to be, so everybody can talk without timing going off. Timing is huge with the digital systems. So there's a lot that involves with that maintenance contract. Like the town manager said, we're about $135,000 more than our highest payment was on our initial system. The reason why we were spacing it out this 15 years is because it was the most cost-effective way to keep our system to the most current levels that we can and upgrading all our technology going forward. Eastern Communications is taking a huge risk by giving us this $608,000 a year. I know it's a huge number. As a taxpayer, I wince at it too. But that number is actually a hit that they're taking and taking upon themselves to take the risk, because as everybody knows here, technology's constantly changing and it keeps getting more expensive. This locks us in at a price in the contract language that we have. Even when technology gets better, we get the current technology at that price instead of paying more for a newer version, if you will. I don't know if that answered.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll just make a quick comment. As somebody who's always trying to find savings and not spend a single penny that we don't have to, I gotta say that somebody's life has no price that you can attach to it. And if this is what we need to do to make sure that our first responders are getting the job done properly, I'll be happy to spend the next few months trying to find other savings. But I think this is something that has to be done. And, hopefully, I know there are a lot of projects that should have been done a long time ago, but that passed and we need to look forward. And I think this is one of the most important ones that we need to get done now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dirk. Further councilors' comments? Councilor Carbone.
Thank you. Hi, Bob. Thanks for indulging me with the meeting on Friday. I really appreciate that.
No problem at all.
And all the questions. I'm still trying to, and I think we all are still trying to wrap our brains around it a little bit.
Yep.
I will echo Mickey's sentiments that I think we are all in the same boat. We all agree it's something that's imperative, something that's life-saving, but it's a huge pill to swallow.
Yes.
And I'm sure nobody will be surprised here. I agree with Tom Mazzarella's statements of financial. Like, there is no way to bring this number down. And I know you guys keep echoing, oh, it's only $134,000 more. That was one payment 3 years ago. And it was because you implemented the sums. And I asked about what the sums was, and you have to really peel back the tech for me. So
on the sheet, the sums was added in to give people the reference of what some of the costs were. That's why that's in there, and it's only there for 3 years.
Yes.
So sums we were paying for the whole time. It was there as an implementation just to show what that cost is. What we've done is taken sums, put it into the maintenance contract.
It was in a different budget before that?
Yeah, it was different. So we paid separately for we paid separately for sums than we did for maintenance and for everything else. We've now intertwined the maintenance contract with sums, which actually includes the maintenance patches and everything else. So they are taking on that cost now. So with all these patches coming in, they take on that cost. When things break in our shelters, they're going to take that cost on to fix these things. That's why that maintenance contract got worded the way it is. That maintenance contract is crucial to keeping this system up to date and moving it forward. The patches are only a very small bit of it. There's a lot of background things that go into that, as everybody knows. So
the annual cost that's on this sheet, so that is incorrect, you're saying, because sums was coming out of a different budget, and so it would actually be higher than what's up on the right, going up to 2023?
So, yeah, the numbers that we have, the 134 that was added in was being paid for out of a separate line item, I think is the way it would have been.
Yeah, I think I saw that in 2022, it's actually 85.
Yeah, and you'll see a gap also in the maintenance contract, because there was a time when the town got the system and we hadn't accepted it because we had some problems, especially on the fire side. And we were not going to accept it until we got the best of what we could get. And then L3 came in with some new technology. They presented it to the fire department. The fire chief can speak on that if he would like. I was in at the time as well, and that's why we didn't have a payment on maintenance and stuff like that. So,
and just to humor me again, so did you have a discussion? I know you looked at other companies, other scenarios, and this seemed to be the best fit, the best price, what you could do. But even within this contract, was there anything you could do to peel back maybe a layer or two?
We actually did. There was a lot of things that we've sort of molded to the town a little bit better. So when L3 first came into our town, there was a certain type of core that they had. That core was the only one they had, and it was called the Elite, if I'm not mistaken. We've gone down one size because L3 has come out with different products. For our size town, we don't need such a large core. So what we did is we actually dropped down a size of the core to keep the police, fire, EMS, and town services up and running with the best service they can, but without paying more than what we need to. So we did cut back on that. Like I said, we got a $70,000 a year savings on the sums, which Rodney Filgren in that meeting that you were attending, he had mentioned. So there were a lot of cutbacks that we did do to sort of form a better deal for the town of Wethersfield. And yes, it is a huge number. Nobody's going to deny it.
Yeah, no, everybody.
I appreciate all the council members' questions because it actually shows concern, and as a taxpayer, I appreciate that.
I have one more question. So Councilor Forrest had mentioned when he asked the question if we had a shutdown, and you had said there was actually 2, and it was because of HVAC and a switch or something. So this doesn't incorporate that. So how do we move forward? We're going to have all these amazing upgrades, but what if the HVAC goes? What if this switch happens?
We do have plans for things that come up like that. We had a request for HVAC and generators. We replaced the HVAC systems on both our shelters at the Kelleher site and the generator at the Kelleher site. We only have one more generator that we have to purchase now, and that's in the Callahan site in Newington. We do have to do HVAC systems for the shelters moving forward. But the problem is, yes, those aren't directly parts of the system, but they support the system. And when those break down, we have failures in the system, and that system being at the age it is, when those failures happen, we start to lose GPS clocks, we start to lose different types of systems inside that shelter that we can't get anymore. And
so even if this is the most amazing program you could possibly get, if the HVAC goes, we're done.
Like anything else. So without the infrastructure being built up, then anything can fail. And like I said to you in the meeting, I can't guarantee that there will never be a failure. That's just nothing that I can guarantee in writing saying that won't happen. What we're trying to do is build the best system that we can. And moving forward, most of our HVAC systems on those shelters are 20 plus years old. In most of your homes, and I'll just try to relate it to what people have in their homes just because it's easier to recognize, 20-year-old, 30-year-old boilers, 20, 30-year-old HVAC systems start to break down, and getting parts for those and fixing them are expensive.
Difficult to find.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're replacing the ones that are the most problematic, I'll say, that are failing the most and having the most problems, and we're budgeting for replacing the next ones after that. So we're trying to make a plan moving forward as far as replacing all the aged equipment, and if we maintain it properly like we've tried to do for the past 20-some years, we're going to be in a better spot once all that stuff is done. There are large ticket items, in my opinion. So yeah, no,
thank you.
We've got a plan moving forward, but it's just we got to catch up to where we've been lacking.
Thank you. And I'm going to hold this council to really working on the budget, trying to keep it down because we have a lot of things we really need and can't afford. So I'm going to hold you guys to it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Further council comments? Councilor Weiner.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to just make some brief comments about it. I don't think it's any surprise by the questions I asked that I work in technology. I actually spent many years in telecom, so some of the stuff I understood, which is good to have that experience. Technology in municipalities is something I've noticed. I've only been in town government for a short period of time, but it's usually pretty behind. And this is a program, in my opinion, that brings us up in technology into the 21st century and beyond. And I think that's something that most municipalities struggle with, obviously budgets and everything else constraints. But I think the ROI that we're going to get on this system is huge. I've seen maintenance contracts cost way more than that and in shorter periods of time. So it's actually, in technology, it's very expensive. Technology is increasingly in cost, for everybody, even consumers. So I think the ROI, 15 years upgrading us, getting us to that within 15 years is a really good program. And my next comment here is not to scare anybody, but cyber attacks are prevalent across the world right now. With everything going on in the world, it's only going to increase. This will bring us up security-wise too. And, we don't want outside interference from any attackers on our networks. And right now, the way our technology is in town, it could be put at risk. So I think our first responders would appreciate this upgrade. I know they're looking at us to make sure that we're upgrading it. So I just wanted to tell you, I have my support in this, and I'm looking forward to, and if you want me to come around and see it installed,
The invite's
I can
open
geek out
to
with
you at
everybody.
any time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Weiner. Appreciate your expertise and your comments on that. Further council comments? I'll just make a couple and then we'll call the vote. First of all, Bob, thank you and the whole team. Thank you for all the work you did, town staff. Thank you for all the work that you did. I want to thank Councilor Carbone, Councilor Pentelo, Councilor Durick, who joined me at the meeting last Friday. I want to thank Chief Schroll and Chief Medina, who's not here, for your support and speaking about how important this is to first responders. Thank you very much. We are all concerned about the costs. It's part of our job here, the costs of this and the other things that we do. And it is expensive, but I think, well, we'll see how the vote is. I think the majority feel it's very necessary. And I just appreciate all the time spent by you and the team. And I think if there's no other council comments, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes. Thank you. We're going to move on in our agenda to next part of the agenda. Consent agenda, yeah. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Rhodes.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Oh.
Oh, I don't know, did anybody, it was like a photo finish, those of you that like races, I don't know who.
Me. I got it first.
Okay, we're going to give it to Councilor Penelo with a photo finish, the second. All in favor of the consent agenda? Aye.
Aye.
And then we have item K1, that's the ordinance, again, to accept the CIF grant for planning. I don't know if there's any, we'll take a motion. Councilor Rhodes, Deputy Mayor Rhodes, I apologize.
It's okay.
Deputy Mayor Rhodes.
Counselor's fine. Motion to approve R26-001, resolution to accept Community Investment Fund grant award for planning for the William J. Pitkin Community Complex renovation and addition projects.
Second.
For the second. Councilor Weiner, I was looking at everybody to see who wanted to get that in first. I heard Councilor Weiner, thank you. Now, this is good to have humor. It's also serious business to have some humor. Now back to the business. Does any councilor have any questions or comments about this item?
It's gonna go.
Yeah, I'll just add, I said it last time, so I'll be really brief. We have made it a priority, this council, to invest in the community center to get state funds. We're looking at a number of things, a new cafe, small cafe, moving offices in front, and the bathrooms that were made for elementary school children to make them appropriate for seniors and make them handicap accessible. Those are some of the main things we're looking at with this money. Just want to remind people, I know I've said it before, the public and our counselors. And if there's no comments or questions, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, passes. There's no unfinished business. There's no new business, no other ordinances. We're back to the public comment, the second public comment section. Does anybody want from the public? Tom, your hand was first. You're fast. So I got Tom first, and then we'll take anyone else. Give you.
Good evening again, Tom Mazzarola, 600 Walcott Hill Road. I just want to clarify, you know, when someone gets up here and questions some spending, it doesn't mean we don't support the project. I never said that the radio system was not important. Of course it was important. But you get all this pushback about, well, you know, how much is the cost of a life? You know, I just want information. And the information wasn't out there. Now some people had a separate meeting and that's all well and good. But what's the problem with sharing that with the rest of the public, the people that are paying the bill? Okay, never mind. Today's Wethersfield Life, you know, here we go. State of the town. I wasn't able to make it this year. But there was a couple comments in the report that I want to bring forward. And I know I'm not supposed to name names, but I think you have to say who said X, because otherwise it's not a legitimate statement. Mayor Lesser said that there's 93 new businesses came to town this past year, and they represent $5 million of investment in the local economy. Well, 93 businesses is a lot of businesses, and I think we should see a list of all 93 businesses, and we should see alongside of that their personal property tax that they're paying or going to pay for those 93 businesses. Because I believe many of those businesses are LLCs. I happen to have a couple myself. You do them for different real estate transactions and things of that nature. They bring zero to the town, zero. But it sounds good, 93 new businesses in town. So I hope I can see that list. The next speaker was Bobby Granata, the chair of the Board of Ed, talking about the referendum, $239 million. The town's share is $88 million, and the remaining $151 will be funded by the state. Absolutely incorrect statement, because she doesn't include the finance costs on those bonds. It's not in there. They're roughly about 60-something million dollars, if my math is correct. So, you know, all that looks good when you're giving a presentation, but you need to give the facts to the residents. And I don't think that's too much to ask. And I'm not saying that town government should spend all their time answering all the questions for the public, but things need to be presented properly. The last thing was the article, the editorial from the editor. Who will provide tax relief? And it's a little bit over the top, but I want to read part of it anyways. This is also the time of the year when town councils, Board of Educations, and Board of Finance sit down to craft detailed budgets for the upcoming fiscal year. They have the power to spend, reduce spending, raise taxes, or lower taxes. Wouldn't it be nice this year if municipal budgets came down, even if it's 1% or 0.5%? Every town should be able to do that without harming programs and services in public education. Talk to your elected leaders and tell them that is one thing to say, that is the one thing to say that they care about the cost of living and affordability, but quite another to take action and to make things better. Remind them that we elected them to make tough decisions, and that's what they need to do to remedy the problem. And I hope you all will take that to heart. And it's tough up there to make cuts, but this is what we need to do. Our revenue doesn't increase, our tax revenue from state or whatever doesn't increase anywhere near to 3.5%. So what do? You get it from the public. So you got to try and live within your means, our means, okay? And $14 million for radio is a lot of money. And $239 million for schools is a lot of money. And people just don't have it. You have to work on it. It's not the time to add employees and add programs and add all these other nice to have things. Dollars and cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Young.
Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. Mr. Woodward spoke about that 4.5% proposed budget number for going into next year. This year was 3.76% increase. And look at the increases that we saw in many bills, and also we saw many decreases in bills. By looking at the actual bills that come out of the town of Wethersfield, I don't know what in the world is going on, Mayor, but your system is not working right, or someone's playing games with the numbers. And in the meantime, the citizens have to pay for everything. And that radio system, highly costly, and it should have been turned down. Next, I was talking earlier about asking for the interest on the $239 million budget, that referendum number, and I was told that that number, that information does not exist per the town manager's office. And all you got to do is go and look at his number 25-36 and 25-34, I think it was, and you might see a lot of that discussion going on. And the only reason I know, there's two reasons I know why the interest on the $239 million and the $88 million is: one, Mr. O'Neill from the Finance Department was asked by the manager's office to put together a schedule to show how much interest was going to be charged against the $88 million. They wouldn't do the $239 million. Town manager's office told me to go to the state of Connecticut to get that number. And that's typical of government. Pass the buck. His own people did all the work. Mr. Weiner's group, he's the greatest guy in the world. He came up with the $239 million, and everybody loved it until the bill comes in. And we're going to now see those effects roll in on us. So anyway, I'm told to go to the state of Connecticut to get that interest rate. Mr. O'Neill came out and created a spreadsheet for me to look at, showing the interest over the course of the 20 years, and it was going to be in 3 different sections, or 3 different bond issues, and at the 4.75%. And again, Mr. O'Neill shows in his finite number, the $88 million paying, the interest on that was $41,800,000. So he was pretty close to what I got out of AI. But he knew more about the 3 different sections and how much they would be, and so forth and so on. I could not get the information from the people that created the $239 million number for the state side. I was told to go there. Tough luck, guy. And I pay taxes to the state, I pay taxes to the town, I pay taxes to the federal. And I get nothing, especially from my own town. It's all here in writing that you can see. And they sent me more than one issue telling me that your request was canceled, closed. You know what that means? I've done a lot of FOIs. I've done them with other towns. I've done them with the state of Connecticut. And at the end of the FOI, when they deliver it to me, they say, "Is there any more information you need? We're here if you need any more information." Town of Wethersfield says, "It's closed." Great bunch of people, okay? So anyway, I also have another argument based on the issue of the $24 million. The $24 million was for unreimbursable items that was thrown into the $239 million number. And I wanted to know what in the world it was all about.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
I guess I'm going to have to come back next time.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
This is a great town you run.
Thank you, Mr. Young. It is a great town. Thank you, Mr. Young. We have another section, council comments, and I have one. Does anybody have any? Councilor Dirk.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mazzarella left already, but he might have been referring to me for the pushback. I was actually trying to do exactly the opposite. So just to be on the record, I was asking all those questions just to make sure that everybody gets the same information that I did get on Friday. It was not a pushback. It was just we're just trying to get it to the public. And my second comment is for Mr. Pentelow, when he said in 15 years none of us will be here. I think you are underestimating Mr. Forrest. I think he'll be
That's fair. That's fair.
Well,
I guess since I'm
well
the
played.
chairperson of the council, I just go by my age of the council. I won't be here.
Thank you.
That was funny, Mickey. That was good.
Now, thank you, Councilor Durek. I also want to address something that Tom said about referring to me, making a comment about 93 new businesses. That information was given to me by the Economic Development Director, Kurt Lang, who did a tremendous amount of research to put together the background information for the presentation. He came up with the number, I presented it, 93 and 5 million in revenue. And I'll ask the town manager if there's information on those business lists that someone could get if they wanted to, because I actually asked him, is that the right number? Because it seems like a great number, and it is. And he said, yes, it is.
Yeah, but I think to Mr. Mazzarella's point, some of those could very well be LLCs, but certainly not the majority of them. I think
Still a new business.
you're always going to get a handful, technically by the state, which is where we get the list from. Those are new businesses, right? They have to pay their business permit fees, all that. So they're new businesses in town. What specifically each business generates with respect to revenue, we're not going to be able to generate that, particularly on an LLC like that. But the number that he gave you for the amount of investment made were on the projects we do know about. So that's an at least number. Those are just the projects that we know about, that we have specific data on, and that we can provide. I'm sure it's actually a much bigger number than that, but we're not going to, tout something we don't have the data on.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any other council comments tonight? If not, we have no executive session. Nothing. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Councilor Weiner, did you get that one?
I got two now.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Councilor Pentelow.